What's up guys, the Strong Boys 19 here. This is going to be a discography ranking. It is because that I have seen various other people's videos on ranking a band's discography first without any separate reviews on each album. But since that I have been on a huge nostalgic phase, hence the t-shirt and the title, I would like to talk about for some time of the Korn discography, ranking them from my least favorite to my favorite. Now, I'm going to be doing proper full reviews on each album, although I have reviewed the Paradigm Shift when that came out. But it is safe to say that besides Slipknot, Korn still holds a very big and important place in my heart when it comes to discovering the heavier side of metal music, and the whole experience of them really became such an obsession for me, and obviously with many music tastes that grow on me so much more over time. So this is in my personal opinions and perspectives on each albums, why I rank them these ways, and I would like to see your comments down below that you consider to be your least favourite to your favourite. Number 13 is The Path of Totality. Now this album is very obvious for me, as I still really don't like this album whatsoever, and that is coming from me being a massive Korn fan. But here's the truth, we can't love everything in a band, but The Path of Totality is not a great experience for me. I just hated this kind of sound. Dubstep has never been a genre that I particularly liked. I understand and like Jonathan's honesty and appreciation for the album, but I think the songs to this album really did not do anything for me, because they are very repetitive and tiring, and they are just forgettable for me. And I never really cited this as a collaboration that gets some more chances from me, yet I ranked this really negatively as one of the worst. So I personally don't like The Path of Totality one bit. Number 12 is See You on the Other Side. This one being the most experimental album in terms of various genres and styles, from gothic rock to industrial and some electronic stuff to this album. But what really is very lacking on this album is that not every song on this record flows naturally and grows with me entirely. There are great tracks to this, and this was actually the album that got me hooked onto Korn and discover the band as a whole. And I still love some of the songs. You've got Twisted Transistor to Hypocrites, the other single Coming Undone, Liar, and some others. But for me, a lot of the songs don't really grow on me because they are lackluster of songwriting, and especially with these kinds of lyrics. So See You on the Other Side for me is not a very bad album. I just think it is pretty much above average, not one of the best. Number 11 is Take a Look in the Mirror. Now, the reason why this album is really low in the list, I personally follow Take a Look in the Mirror as a pretty disappointing follow-up to Untouchables. And I actually did like this album a lot more when I had listened to it when I was younger. But the more I thought about it after revisiting the discography, this album does not really grow up as a great album, as a continuing follow-up to Untouchables. Even Head claimed this as the worst record we did. Monkey and Jonathan hated the album. I can see why, because there's a lot of instrumentation to this album that is not as well defined. There is a couple of tracks that I thought were standouts, obviously being Right Now, and for me the best accessible song, Did My Time, and others, but a lot of it is bland in execution and lyrically as well, the reason why it's not one of the best. Number 10 is quite controversial besides The Path of Totality, and that is the Untitled album. This one took me by surprise, as that I really liked this album the more I listened to it and thought about it. I remember watching back a few days ago the making of the Untitled album, as many Korn fans called this one as that. This is a very difficult crisis for Korn because David and Head were not in the band at this point. It was just Jonathan, Monkey and Fieldy, so they brought in various musicians to work with this album. It is very industrial in a lot of these spaces. Various inspirations of lyricism, especially environmental issues with the songs of Killing and Evolution, to some self-faith and hope for yourself on Hold On. Lyricism for the family of Jonathan, like I Will Protect You, and other stellar songs that I really like, Bitch We Got a Problem and Kiss. The variations of styles to this album grew on me. Brilliant instrumentation, and Terry Bozzio's drumming to this record is stunning. I really do love the way he plays his kit, as that he has a sound of his own. He also played with Frank Zappa, believe it or not. There are electronic instrumentations with the studio's capable collection of equipment, and the guitar riffs are still here, but this is still a very dismissive album from Korn fans, and I think it's really underappreciated. Number 9 is The Paradigm Shift. The Paradigm Shift, to me, as a follow-up to Korn 3, is very, very good. There is still quite a bit of that dubsteppy-ish kind of sound, but very rarely. It has a lot of strong hooks and melody, especially on songs like Pray For Me, and the excellent musicianship from Ray's drumming, Never Never being very, very good as well. This has other favourites for me on the album that delivers very, very well for each other. So the Paradigm Shift, to me, as a follow-up to The Path of Totality, is really the kind of direction that I would like to hear so much better than the last album, obviously. This is a very, very good release. Number 8 is Korn 3, Remember Who You Are. This is where Korn tries to, return themselves back into their old roots of their instrumentation. If I have to give one criticism for, is that this album does have a returning heavier back to basics sound like the first 2 albums, for example, but it isn't that strong as those 2 albums. But this album really grows, solidifies my appreciation for this album so much better than the Paradigm Shift. There is a lot of that angsty, gritty and nasally instrumentation with these chugging riffs, and I think for a debut with Ray from Steel Panther to be Korn's new drummer is a brilliant starting point. Ray's drumming on some of these songs are excellent until he, really varies and improves his skills on the other later Korn albums with the rest of the band. So this album is very, very good. I do like this one a lot. Brilliant songs, Oildale, Let the Guilt Go, etc. Number 7 is The Serenity of Suffering. This one took me some time to think about, but at the end of the day, The Serenity of Suffering is a great album. It has so much melody for Jonathan as a singer, and he varies from a lot of the cleans to more of his popular screams and grunts, even with Corey Taylor making an appearance on the excellent song, and catchy one at that, of A Different World. Brilliant songs that I love, Take Me, and the other songs that stand out, memorable hooks. There are a few fillers to this album that some of the songwriting feels a little safe and repetitive lyrically, but The Serenity of Suffering, as one of the recent Korn albums, I think this one is excellent. Number 6 is The Nothing. Now this record is, for me, the strongest Korn album that I've heard in quite a long time. As much as I really, really liked The Paradigm Shift, Remember Who You Are, and The Serenity, The Nothing is, for me, where the defining sound of songwriting and emotions Korn got is all here on this album. Lyrically personal, obviously with the losses of his wife and his mother, his wife due to an intense drug addiction, and this was where Jonathan really explores his true self and feelings around these difficult times from the making of this album. But what really stands out even better is that lots of these songs are excellent. Some of the best sounds of instrumentation that Korn had done in a long while. Great tracks. I really like the instrumentation that continues that flow, that heavy darkness. This is really the darkest Korn album pretty much since like the debut and Life is Peachy. Excellent album to follow up Serenity, and I would approve it as one of the best Korn albums. Number 5 is Untouchables. To me, this is an album that stood the test of time as a big grower. I thought that some of the songs are fantastic. These really punishing sounds of the menacing guitar work and the monstrous bass to the drumming. The songs that are so hateful and punishing as all hell. Obviously, the brilliant songs of Here to Stay and the Columbine shooting referenced single of Thoughtless and Alone I Break, but other stunning songs, Hating, Bottled Up Inside, and some of the later tracks really grew the evilness and the sheer brutality to this kind of mood on this album. And with Jonathan taking a lot of his time to record great vocal takes for months in the studio to get everything nailed in place, this is really one of the menacing sounds of his vocals that is one of his best. Untouchables is brilliant from beginning to end. Number 4 is Follow the Leader. Now, this album is no surprise for many Korn fans to regard this as easily one of the better albums in the discography, but for many fans to see this as the best, I would disagree. But this one holds quite a lot of memories for me. I was obsessed with the tracks to this album, like It's On, Freak on a Leash, and Got the Life, to other classic, brilliant songs that I love immensely, like Reclaim My Place and My Gift to You. Even I did dig the collaborative track with Ice Cube on Children of the Corn, not as much with Fred Durst on All in the Family, but this is definitely a very memorable album. These guitar works and the drumming that is one of David's best ever. It's a very great album from start to finish, despite the heavy addictions personally for the band in the studio, spending more than $25,000 on alcohol and, letting the creativity go with whatever they got whilst going through a lot of intoxication. But Follow the Leader is an excellent, amazing Korn record from beginning to end. Number 3 is Issues. I always love this album pretty much a tad bit more than Follow the Leader. Korn's melodies and exploring of sound and songwriting started it all on this album. There is a lot of the moodiness and the darkness, brilliant tracks that grew stronger. Tracks like Somebody Someone to Falling Away From Me and Wake Up. Love the other songs on here, especially the interludes that have some of its ambient feel to it. And of course with the best single on the album, in my opinion, being Make Me Bad. But this is a big experiencing album, and I really love the album that way, because it just draws you into what is going on. And besides the heavy aggression, Issues stands out as one of my personal high favourites from the band. Number 2 is the Selftitled debut album. Obviously, this is known for many fans as, the best album, but I love this still as highly. This one really stood the test of time for being like a big pioneer album that would become a definition of the genre of nu metal. Not that I love everything about nu metal, but with Korn being known as like the pioneers, they perfected it especially with this album and the follow-ups. To me, this is the defining touch and the production for the band. The songs to this are very intense, especially lyrically, onto the references from Jonathan's difficult past of being tormented and bullied to personally one of the darkest, if not the darkest song that I've ever heard from their entire repertoire, being Daddy, which I'm not going to go into for this video because that's for another video. But I love the instant, spontaneous classics, Blind, Clown, To Need To, the nursery rhymed track Chutes and Ladders, and the enraging and hateful vocals from Jonathan is stunning, especially of the musicianship that is powerful. Brilliant album. Ross Robinson's production is fantastic as well. And number one for me, it is Life is Peachy. This is a record that I strangely remember being so obsessed with the most. As much as the debut, it has the delivery and the intensity of their aggressiveness. I thought that Life is Peachy was one of the most devastating and heaviest stuff for metal albums, and it shows, especially with songs like Chi, Lost, Swallow, to the brilliant, frantic guitar playings of tracks like Good God, No Place to Hide, and the singles of Adidas. You know, this album really is, for me, Korn at their best. It is very over the top, lyrically, especially with the track Cunt. And the most heaviest song, obviously, being the most emotional for the last track, Kill You, where Jonathan rips his vocals apart, exploring his difficult past, and the music really grows and grows the enraged environments. Life is Peachy, as it is quite underrated for some fans. To me, this is my favourite Korn album and still stands the test of time as one of my all-time favourite albums, like the classic Selftitled debut. So that is it, guys, my list of ranking the Korn discography from my least favourite to my favourite. I would love to see your comments and lists down below, and I would like to respond to them, and I'm looking forward to see what these comments are going to be. This one is obviously for Korn fans worldwide, and let me know what you think of these albums in the comments. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll keep you guys posted for more videos in the near future.